We are live now.
Awesome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen that are listening to us in this broadcast, Leadership Lessons with Dr. Stanley Maphosa on a Saturday morning. We have not been doing these leadership lessons for quite some time now, but we are going to go back now. And in this season, we would like to be discussing the role of the church in politics, the nexus between church and politics, that center, that subset in between these two circles of church and politics, and how believers should be involved and how believers should not be involved. To kick off this session, I think this guy is going to be one of our regulars. I trust so, God willing. I've got in the studio this morning Dr. Phil Tswangira, who himself is running leadership lessons as well, and is quite clued up on issues of leadership within South Africa, the continent, and beyond. I'd like to give you this opportunity, Dr. Phil, to introduce yourself. Tell the people who is Dr. Phil. What are you busy doing right now? Where are you located? And just refresh the people. Some know you, some don't, and then we can get into the subject.
Thank you so much, Baba. Thank you so much, Doctor. Again, good morning to everyone who is listening to us. I am very excited also to be on this platform today, being hosted by my brother. It's always good to be hosted by your elder brothers. And so we want to say thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Stan. So Phil is a Zimbabwean who is now based in South Africa. I came here about 4 years ago as a missionary to work, to plant a work that is under TNET International. TNET International is based in the US, and I wanted to start the work here in South Africa, which had kind of stalled. It had been started and then it died, and I wanted to come and do that. TNET is involved in training pastors on how to transform your church into a disciple-making church. We know that we have a lot of churches, but not all churches are disciple-making churches. And so we are involved in doing that. And the courses that we offer are all how-to courses. In other words, we come in alongside you and help you to train your people on how to live as believers in their communities and, everywhere where they are, at work, at home, at school. I mean, it doesn't matter. So that's what we are involved in. I also founded an organization called the Institute of Christian Leadership many years ago in 2007 in Zimbabwe. After being involved in Christian leadership, I saw a gap. I saw that a lot of leaders needed coaching and mentoring. And so we developed the Institute of Christian Leadership, which is really a platform for coaching and mentoring of leaders, both in government, in the civic societies, in church, and anyone who is in leadership. Really, we are involved in that. You can get to know me a little bit more on my website, leaders.co.za, and also on my pages, Phil Tswangira, on Instagram, on Facebook, and what else, on Twitter. So that's me. You may want to know that I'm married, yes. One wife, yes. And blessed with three very good growing children. One is just 2 months old.
Okay.
And the rest 14 and 16. So This one came in as a COVID child, Dr. Stan. We were
This
blessed.
is good.
Yeah.
No, God is good. God is good. God is good. I would like to go a little bit back to the tenet as well as the institution before we go into our subject today. Our lesson still going on tenet, and where can people find you and participate in the lessons that you do?
Okay, great. So the lessons are still going. If you are a pastor or if you are a church planter, you can just contact me again on Facebook or on Twitter or on my Instagram. You contact me, send me a message, and I'll give you a direction as to where you can get the training. It is a bachelor's and a master's program, which is, if you were in the secular world, you would say if you are doing a master's, you would be doing your master's in business leadership. But because it is a church program, then you would be doing a master's in ministry. But really, everything that you do there is all to do about management and leadership. Everything is about management and leadership. What you learn at a seminary or a Bible school, majority of the time does not equip you to manage or to run the church as an organization. And as tenet, we come alongside you and then help you to get the tools that you need to run church as an organization, and a multiplying organization for that matter. Multiplying church planting and the like. So you can just get hold of me, and we will take it from there. It's one of the best and cheapest trainings that I know of, because we want to train trainers. That's why we subsidize everything.
Wonderful. Our discussion for today is mainly about the role of the church in politics. And I think in your leadership space within the institution as well as internet, you do teach a lot of leadership material. But this day we're twisting a little bit to look at what the church needs to be doing or does not need to be doing in politics. Maybe let's start by definitions. What's your definition or understanding of politics?
Well, I just Googled, Doc. I just Googled just now because I was curious. I was saying to myself, I want to see if the frame of my thinking around politics is true. And, politics is defined as the activities associated with governance of a country or an area. And that's really what it is. It is all about how to run the affairs of an area or a state or even a school. There's some governance issues there. So that's how I look at politics. I would concur and agree with the definition that is given here.
Okay. So somebody told me that this word politics is not really originating from English. It's originating from some of those languages. I think it's Latin or something, and it's
Latin,
a combination of two words. It's a combination of two words. It's polis, which is the one that comes from what is called metropolis, where we stay, and the ethikos, which is ethics. So when you put them together, it talks about how we do business where we stay. It's an art or a science of knowing how we do business where we stay. And,
knowing how we do business where we stay, even exactly. At home.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
So there's home politics, there is church politics, there is family politics. Let's go a little bit into those. Do you think there is church politics within the church itself?
There is, Doc. There is so much politics. Actually, I have a talk that one of these days we will discuss, and I talk about the type of pastors that you should avoid, and one of those one of those pastors is a politically aligned pastor. When I'm talking about that, I am talking about a pastor that does pastoring because they want to occupy positions. They want to flout their clout and be known as this guy, that guy who is powerful, who is important, and the like. They are not doing it for anything else but just to be known. And so we see this a lot in the church. There's people, there's certain processes or protocols that we see in the church that if you flout, my brother, you are in trouble. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. and all of it because of the politics in the church. In fact, there are certain churches where if you can have one of the best ideas ever. You can have one of the best ideas, but if you don't sell it to the right people who have power or influence, you will fail. That idea will never see, the dawn of the day. It will never, ever. Yeah. And so there is politics in the church.
There is politics, and some of it, Dr. Phil, is racial politics, where you find a church where there are blacks and whites, and blacks maybe are not caring about the whites that are there, or whites that are there leading. They are not caring about the blacks that are there, and sometimes there's also tribal politics in the church.
Yes.
You find that there's a church which is dominantly Zulu, and you come in there, you are Tsonga. You are not listened to, or perhaps in the Zimbabwean case, a church that is prominently in Ndebele, and you are Shona, and you are not really given space, or prominently Shona, and you are coming in, you are Ndebele, and that politics of the tribal issues gets into the church and, affects us. Let's comment about that a little bit before we move on.
That is the sad reality, Doc. That is the sad reality. We see it every time. There was one time when I was doing consultants work for a certain Christian organization, and I would go to different churches, and you would see this at play. You'd see this at play a lot, where the language, where the songs, where the message would not be accommodating any other tribal group, because the pastor there prefers his own tribe, and so I have seen it almost every day. I have been personally affected by it a couple of times. In the organizations that I've worked with, we have seen that there are certain brothers or sisters who prefer their color better than your color. They prefer their language better than your language. And so it's a little bit sad, but it's a reality. We actually need to deal with that as a church. We need to be honest to admit that it is there, and then to come up with ways of how to deal with it, because we can't hide our head in the sand anymore, Doc. It is there, and we need to deal with it. Yeah.
No, this is good. This is good analysis, and I think the listeners out there are hearing our voices and our passion around this, to say, while these things are there, leadership must be beyond these political issues, racial politics, tribal politics. If you are a leader, you are a leader to all, and therefore you don't need to be associating with one group of people at the expense of others. Yeah. While church is involved in those politics, and some people would argue that it's not politics, church leaders are so much concerned about governance politics or party politics. And I've heard over the years some people say politics is a dirty game. And if you are a Christian and you are going into party politics, into governance, in some churches you would be demoted and told that no, you should no longer be a leader in our church because you are bringing dirty stuff. Do you think politics, party politics, governance politics is dirty? And should the church be involved? Now we're getting into the subject. Should the church be involved in ruling the country? Is it dirty?
Well, let's start first of all as and say should the church be involved? Yes, it should be.
Yes.
It actually should be the barometer, if I could say, the measure that we use to run organizations should be the church. Yep. We should be the example. We should be the ones that are actually helping people on how to, when it comes to governance issues. But then I need to just take a little bit of a step back and say that if you are a pastor, you must understand that you pastor different people of different persuasions and especially political persuasions. And so as a pastor or as an elder in a church or a Christian leader, you need to make sure that your message is apolitical, and that you speak the truth and the truth only. You may have your own persuasions. You may have your own inclinations or your liking, or you may have a political character or a person that you like, but you can't take that into the church. In the church, you need to be speaking what is truth, and you need to be showing people what they ought to be looking for in a politician, and just speaking truth. And then letting the people, decide by themselves. And so that is the danger that I have seen over the years. I have been fortunate to be a board member of a couple of organizations, and then also to go into high-level Christian meetings where majority of my bishops would be persuaded of a certain position, and then they would say, we want to come out and say as a church, we are against this. And I've always, as a young man, I have always been saying, you can't tell the people in the church what to do. They are not puppets. They ought to make decisions by themselves, but you can show them what is wrong and what is right. Teach them what is wrong and what is right, so that you can inform their decision. It's been a big problem. It's been a big problem that a lot of our church leaders will stand and say, as your pastor, I'm telling you, this is the person you must support. Yeah, as a pastor, this particular organization is devilish. It's wrong. It's whatever. No, you can't do that. I believe, personally, I'm convinced that you can't do that. But you can stand as a leader. This is what I do. I can speak truth, and I've had opportunities to speak truth to power, and thank God for that, and show people what to do, and say, this is the right thing. This is these are the red flags that you look here. These are the green flags that you look here. Look, it's your choice. After all, it's you. You have to make your personal choice. I can't tell you what you have to make that. Yeah, I can choose for you. Yeah.
Because I think what you are saying there is very powerful, Dr. Phil, that even any political party, whether you like it or you were born in it or your parents were in it before you were born, has also disadvantages.
Yes.
And the other parties that may not be as nice as you like them, can also have advantages. So there are two sides of the coin for each and every organization. And just speaking on one side and
Yes.
standing in the pulpit and saying, I declare and decree that you are going to vote for this party or for this candidate. Is it the abuse of the pulpit? Should the pulpit be used for such messages?
Well, I think it is. It is the abuse of the pulpit. Look, our biggest example is Jesus Christ.
Yes.
You see, he came into a system that was so wrong. It was a Roman system. The Romans were abusive. The Romans were tyrants. They were killers. They were oppressors. They did not joke when it came to oppressing the people that they were, that the people, especially the people of Israel and that whole territory there. And Jesus came into light. He came in, and then he came and he was speaking a totally different message.
Yeah.
And he did not come in to ostracize or chastise or speak ill of Caesar. He came in and he began to speak the truth, and he just spoke the truth, and people began to see what was right and what was wrong, and that to me is where I am informed, my doc. I'm informed by what Jesus did, and Jesus, I realized that he had opportunities to become a politician, but he refused to be a politician. He had opportunities to really go against Herod and Pilate and all these other guys, but he did not do that. He used his pulpit to speak truth, to speak the kingdom come, and that that is why he was so different, and that is why all of us here must also be doing the same, speaking truth to power, truth, just truth, and Jesus says it himself. He says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Yeah.
No, this is interesting. This is very interesting, Dr. Phil. Let's go back a little bit to my question that says, if politics is dirty, do we continue to leave it dirty, or we need to create opportunities to clean it? All that thought, and then who should clean it? Is it the pastor or Christians that are in my church that have a calling into politics?
Powerful question. So who says that politics is dead?
I said if.
I think it is a wrong notion. Politics is not dead because governance issues are not dead. The Bible is all about governance. The Ten Commandments is all about governance. And all those statutes and laws that are in the Bible are all about governance. So it is not dirty. But the people who have been running politics have made politics dirty. And they want us to believe that politics is dirty. No, that's not right. That's not right. So we need to go back to the basics, Doc, and say, what is politics? Number one, which we have answered. Number two, then where did we go wrong? Because now we are made to believe that politics is dirty, and we are actually, some of us are that gullible to think that politics is dirty, and yet it is not dirty. So where did we go wrong? And then how do we make that right? And then we begin to address that and come up with, maybe we need to be teaching the truth again. Maybe we need to be correcting the notion again. Maybe we need to be getting people into politics who are great examples, who live right, do right, and speak right. And so we need to be having people like that, and then we will then change the narrative around politics. So because we have this notion that politics is dirty, I think the pastors must go back to the basics and begin to teach truth about politics. They need to be teaching truth about politics. A friend of mine who works at the United Nations and as a Christian, and who is running an organization that speaks to power on what it means to be a Christian and a politician, is doing an amazing work. And of late, I've been thinking about it a lot, Doc, that we need as pastors to be having tools to use to teach people on what politics is and how a politician must conduct himself, especially if he is or she is a Christian. And so the burden comes back to us as pastors or as church leaders. We need to be teaching people the truth. We need to be correcting the error that has been there all the time, that politics and politicians are dirty. No, they are not. But the system is dirty because we, the people, have made it dirty. Yeah.
Yes. So among those two people, so you're saying, if I'm hearing you properly, both the pastor as well as those that have a calling to go into politics should be encouraged. The pastor does his work as a pastor or her work as a pastor that speaks truth to power. But at the same time, we have young people that have a calling or have a desire to go into that space. So they need to be encouraged.
Yes, we need to encourage them. We need to make sure that they get into that space, Doc. We need to make sure that we give them the resources and the means to do that. We need to make sure that we celebrate them. We need to make sure that we speak about them on all the platforms that we have. They need to make sure, they need to know that my pastor is proud of what I do. The Bible is very clear. He who desires to lead desires a good thing.
Yes.
So if you desire to lead as a politician, you desire a great thing. So we need to encourage you to do that, and it is really my duty to do that, to give you the platform, to give you the means, to give you the tools, to give you the coaching and the mentoring that you need as a Christian politician to do great in your field. So we need to be doing that, Doc. We need to be doing that.
Wonderful. Let's go to the Bible and check whether they were prophets, priests in the place of pastors who were in politics, and also balance it up whether they were also young people or non-prophets, non-prophets and non-priests who were in politics. We want to balance it up to say, do we have examples that we find in the Bible that would refer to say some of these celebrated heroes of faith challenged the status quo of their governments and they came into the political arena?
Yeah. I think what comes into mind, Doc, is a guy like Elijah, a guy like Elijah and Elisha. Elijah, when he became a prophet, the climate, the political climate was so hostile. It was bad. The worship of Yahweh, God, was decimated. It was no longer there. The king Ahab was really a horrible king who was under the petticoat of his wife, Jezebel, and it was bad. It was bad. Prophets were being killed left, right, and center. And Elijah then began to speak truth to power. And we know the story that he changed the narrative. He spoke, and he he challenged even the falsehoods that were there, and at the end, Yahweh was exalted, lifted up, and the worship of God was restored again. So I see in Elijah a man that is so determined to get things right in a country, and we have men and women of God that ought to stand and speak the truth. You see, when one of the mistakes that a lot of guys make, and I mention it here in this book, Learn, Lead,
Yes.
Legacy. You know, I mention it here. They think that when you speak truth to power, you ought to be disrespectful. You
Okay.
you just shout, you know, and the like. But that
You
is
toy
not
toy,
what.
you destroy schools, you toy toy, you destroy cars, and you
No,
say,
no, no,
yeah, the church must, wah, 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 wah. And they think
no.
that's
Yes,
speaking truth to power.
yeah. I think you're making a lot of mistake when you do that, because there is another example of a man that spoke truth to power, whose name
Yes.
is Nathan. Nathan is an amazing example of a man that spoke truth to power. He was a best friend to David. He was the best friend to David. They loved one another. They cared for one another. They prayed for one another. They mentored one another. They coached one another. They were inseparable. They did stuff together. And then David did something wrong,
Oh
and
Lord.
and he sinned, and he killed someone, and he took someone's wife. And then Nathan, as a friend, approached David, and this is where a lot of people make mistakes, because Nathan approached David in secret, and he
Okay.
told him a
He
story.
didn't toy toy in front of his house.
No, he didn't. He approached David in secret, and he went and said, I want to tell you a story.
Yeah.
And that in that story, he was appealing to David's values. He knew that David valued equality, David valued fairness, and David valued justice. And so he used a story, and he says, there's this guy who is rich, and there's this guy who is poor. And look at what this rich guy did. One sheep, and he killed it to feed his own guests. And David said, no, that is not right. That is not right. And then David pronounced a judgment, and Nathan said, but you see, my friend, the person is you. And then David repented. And that is what we need in the church right now. We need guys who love politicians enough to speak truth to them.
Who develop a relationship before a crisis.
Yes, we
Who
need
know
them.
who to get, where, how, before a crisis, so that when a crisis happens, you are not running all around and toy toy.
Exactly. You know, you need pastors who develop relationships with politicians, not for things, but just because we are friends. You know, because we have a lot of guys that are in friendships with politicians because they know that they will get favors. They are friends with this councillor because they need church stands. They're friends with that one because they need that. No, we're talking of just being a friend who is a counselor to politicians. You need to counsel these guys. And so my encouragement is that we need to be like, we need more Nathans, Mfundis. We need more guys that love you enough to correct you, that love you enough to celebrate you, that love you enough to cry with you, that love you enough just to when you do wrong, to come in there and say, this is wrong. You need guys like that. And so we need to be looking at our rank and file and say, do we have Nathans who are in our corridors here who are speaking truth to power? Because Nathan, after he had spoken truth to David, he kept his mouth shut. Saw David crying, praying, and all that, and he was supporting him. And he did not even, at one time, we are not told in the word of God, we are not told anyway, that Nathan then ended up saying, David, and he used his pulpit and said, I know why David is going through this problem. I know, because he sinned against God. No, he didn't do that. He kept his mouth. He was a confident, and he kept his mouth shut. And that is what we need nowadays. The reason, Mfundis, why politicians don't trust the church, they don't trust the pastors, is because the pastors then go on their pulpits and begin to lambast them. You are told about an issue in secret, and then you go and you stand on the pulpit and you begin to lambast and say that politician is useless, that one is whatever. That is wrong. We need more Nathans. We need guys that can really hold confidence and really just love a politician enough to correct them and to celebrate them at the same time. I
like that example. And the other examples of people that are non-prophets, like Joseph,
yes,
in Egypt, the Daniels, the Meshachs, the Abednego. Moses, I don't know whether Moses was a prophet. Moses liberated the children of Israel. And that was a liberation movement, really, of like breaking apartheid in Egypt or breaking colonialism. That guy had God in him, and he approached a tyrannic Pharaoh and says, God says, let my people go. And those are some of the examples that we need to be quoting to those that want to get into the political space, that it's not a sin, it's not a crime. It's something that has been done before.
Daniel, Daniel was an amazing administrator. An amazing Christian administrator, and so who saved how many kings? 4 kings, he was an amazing administrator whose work ethic was an example. And that is, again, something that we need to be teaching our people, Mfundis, that, your work should promote you. Your work should open doors for you. In fact, the Bible says your gift, it opens doors for you. It will make a way for you. And so we need to be making sure that our people are so excellent in what they do, that everybody, a politician, will be looking for them because they are great, and they will use that to influence the policies of the country. Imagine if we had many director generals and who are Christians, who are using their positions to influence the policies of the country. Imagine if we had many MPs who would use their positions, as Christians to influence the policies of this country. Imagine if we had many who were ministers, cabinet ministers, and MECs who would influence the affairs of the country. Imagine the change. Imagine the climate, the spiritual climate in our country. It would be totally different, But the sad thing, Fundis, is that a lot of us, in fact, in a country where we are 80% Christian, so it means that majority of the people in parliament are Christians, but they are not using that, to leverage or to speak about things that are right and correct, that promote the advancement of the gospel or the church. And so we need, as pastors, to be teaching our politicians to speak and to continue to stand for truth, to actually continue to speak like Paul says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. I am not ashamed of the gospel. I'm not ashamed to be a Christian. I'm not ashamed to be associated with the church.
It is the power of God. Yes.
and because we have a lot of guys who are in parliament, who in our councils, who are MECs, who are believers, who are not standing for the truth.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can we come a little bit to the now? We have examples of some Christians that went into power, and currently we're celebrating the Zambian story, where we have HH, Honorable HH. President HH is a clear Christian from the Adventist Church, and twice or thrice we saw in his post on social media having church in the State House. Do you have other examples, that before him or within the continent and beyond that that we know they are Christians, but they rose and they led countries either as a president or minister or vice president? Do you have some examples?
Yeah, no, there are quite a number, but let me just comment about the Zambian issue first, and say that President Kenneth Kaunda KK was a Christian, and then he was succeeded by Frederick Chiluba, who went on national TV and to a big stadium to proclaim Zambia a Christian nation. And yes. And what an amazing proclamation. The sad thing, however, is that the church did not capitalize on that, number one. Number two, the church did not help him, in terms of pastoring him. You see, they were going to State House for things, and they did not pastor him, and that is what I'm really hoping won't happen again to HH. That the church will continue to pastor HH because he's an excellent guy. He's a God-fearing guy, but he needs to be pastored. Everyone, Mfundis, needs to be pastored. And so a lot of people made a little bit of mistake when it came to Frederick Chiluba, because they left him. And then he became susceptible to attacks, and then at the end he failed, and that was very wrong. Mfundis Chakwera in Malawi, amazing man of God, amazing man of God, but he is now a president. He's no longer a pastor. He needs other pastors to pastor him. In Nigeria, there was when it was President Goodluck Jonathan, his vice president was a Christian. He was a pastor from the Redeemed Church. Again, you realize that the moment you become a politician, you need a pastor to come in and coach you and mentor you and help you spiritually. In Zimbabwe, for instance, Teorai Ropanongo, was a Christian. She was an amazing member of the Salvation Army, and again, I think we failed to coach her and help her, in a Christian walk. So there are a lot of examples that we could think of.
Yes. Maybe in South Africa, we can talk about the Musmaimana.
Yes.
You can talk about the Kenneth Mesho. I was going to come to Kenneth Mesho to say, if we form a Christian party like the ACDP in a country where we have 80% Christians, but we're not voting for ACTB. We're voting for another party. I don't know the name of the other party that is popular. But there is the Christian party, which is clear, that is called AC. That C is Christian. ACDP. But why are Christians not voting for that party? It's their party.
Well, it's because they don't trust the guy that is leading. They don't trust us. So it's a sad reality. I mean, we are living in a country where there is a lot of trust deficit here. So we must do something that is trustworthy. we must, do something that will say to people, and so that is to me a challenge, because we are not voting for a Christian organization, we are voting for other parties, but or an indication that we don't trust. We don't trust these guys. So we need to ask the guys that are leading us in those political parties to really begin to do things that are trustworthy. And one of the things that they need to be doing is thinking about their succession, and begin to be talking about them, because some of them have been in politics for many years, and so people look at them and say, I need for money. I just need so that they can get something, bread and butter issues here. And that's not right. So we need to be talking about that and engaging around that particular thought. Doc.
Wonderful. Let me get to another question. Do you think it's prudent, as you have indicated right now, to start a Christian party or to join a non-Christian party? For example, if we have party A is non-Christian, we know it was established from just, the principles of governance and established by just common people who are not Christians, and party B is a Christian. So which is the best strategy for a young person who wants to join politics? Should they form their party, or should they join the existing parties that we know? ANC, ZANU-PF, EFF, MDC, and they be part of that and change the system from within. What is the best approach, that, according to your own opinion?
I think it's an either or. It's an either or. So there are political parties that I would say to a person, go and join, because again, we were talking about they need to be cleansed. They need to be cleansed from within. And so imagine if a Christian just goes there and he begins to do things that are right. Who knows? They may influence policy change, and that political party might become a great party. Who knows? But again, it all comes back to, if you really sense that God wants you to start a political party, and that you have the right motives, especially because I would look at the motive. Why are you getting into politics? Why do you want to form a political party? And then if those motives are great and awesome, then I would say go and form the party and make sure that your message is very clear, in a way that we will trust you as the voters, because what you need to do is to be trusted by people. And people don't trust people who have wrong motives. And so you need to make sure that your motives are very clear, and that your motives are not just to come in here and say this political party is wrong, we are the only ones that are right. But you need to be tabling your goals, your initiatives very clearly and succinctly, in such a way that people will then understand and then trust you, the way that they will vote for you, Doc. So I would say, personally, I would go and join political party. Personally, I would join political party, because I would. I think it's better to influence me.
Wonderful. The other question that I have for you, Pastor Dr. Phil, is around the issue that from the examples that you have given, maybe let's go back to them again a little bit. You got Zambia there, you got Malawi there, you got Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and currently we've been talking about South Africa. What are some of the things that really change some of these people that go into politics and they have good motives and they are really powerful, and the next day they are affected by the debt that we spoke in the beginning? Is it personalities change when they are there, or the debt becomes more, or whatever?
Well, yeah.
I think we are having a network issue here.
Yeah, the network is a challenge.
Network is jealousy when we're discussing powerful things.
But I can hear you. So let me just answer that question. Yeah, yeah. But let me just say, I think a lot of Christians or people are just naive to think that politics is a walk in park. It is not. It is hard work. It has its own systems. It has its own processes, and you may want to go in there with very great policies, and you will see that the processes or the systems uptake for what you are doing or what you are proposing. So you need then to begin to work on the system, the processes themselves, so that they can have the capacity to take in the thing that we are proposing, the new things that we are proposing, and when you do that, I've seen a lot of guys who had great ambitions to transform organizations, political organizations, that into that politics, and at the end they were in quotes swamped or swamped by the debt that was in those politics. Then that's the one thing. The naivety is one thing, but there is another one which I think we have mentioned again, is that when somebody gets into politics, as believers, one of the things that we do, the mistake that we do, is to leave them alone, and we don't pastor them, we don't pray for them. We're praying for them, but we are not really discipling them. And so I believe that some of the mistakes that we see being done by politicians, it's really because there's no discipleship, especially believers who get into politics. They need to be discipled. And so we need to continue the process of discipleship, even if they are busy, especially when they are busy. We need to make sure that they are discipled well. So on one side is the navy of it's easy to change, but on the other side, it is the negligence of the church, or the part of discipline. We need to be discipling the politician and making sure that they are held accountable to their spiritual walk.
Okay. I love that response. Praying for those that are already there, and those that are there keeping their guard, that they are also approaching pastors and finding, what is called advisors, who are spiritual people that would advise them and constantly keep them on the track.
Yeah.
It's a two-way process that those that are in must be open enough for this advice, and also keep guard that we are here deployed by God for God and not for ourselves. Let me ask another critical question. What is your view around the young people, youth, in politics, as well as women, Christian women in politics? Because those are the two groups of people that have been left aside. For your information, I think you already know the majority of the population in many states is women, and it's also young people. But when it comes to voting, you'd find that maybe even if they field a woman president candidate, women will choose to vote for a man. In South Africa, for example, in the past administration, there was a woman who was running to be a president, and there was a man who was running to be a president. And guess what? The majority of women voted for the man, and the woman was lost the elections.
Yeah.
So, what's your take on that issue?
So it's I'll say that first of all, it's important that young people and women go into politics. It's very, very important. What has happened in the past is that politicians, male politicians especially, have capitalized on the liberty of young people, especially, use them to win votes. And also, they're using women also, as campaign managers and campaigners to gain votes, but not really giving them, space to become politicians themselves. If they become politicians, then they always occupy some lesser position somewhere there. So we need to be deliberate as guys, to really begin to promote women into powerful positions. We need to be promoting young people into powerful positions. There is this saying that young people are the leaders of tomorrow, and I think it is a lie. Because young people are not the leaders of tomorrow; they are the leaders of today. They are the leaders of today. And the moment you see them as leaders of today, then you make sure that you give them the tools, and the means, and the power or authority to lead well. And so we need to make sure that our young people in the church, our young people in the country are given space, means, and the power to actually do politics with the help of as mature people who will be coaching them and mentoring them in the right way. Something to need to make sure that we begin to teach them that it is all right to be a politician.
Wonderful.
Another who can also be a politician. We need to be promoting that from the pulpit. We need to be speaking about it.
Wonderful. Our network has a problem here. I think we are going to just close it for now. With your final comments, especially next week on the 18th is the voter registration week. What would you say if you were to encourage people to go and register to vote, and why should they register to vote?
So thank you so much for hosting me here. In the next 30 seconds or so, I can say what I need to say. To every young person, you need to go and register to vote, because your vote counts. Your vote is very important. I think you've seen that if you don't vote, certain individuals and certain people become leaders who will influence, maybe even your destiny, or the direction in which you will go, and so, or the direction in which the policies of our nation will go. So it's important for you to go and vote for the right people who stand for the values that you stand for, and who will be your own representatives. Because remember, MPs are not representatives of those other people. They are your slaves. They are your representatives. They are supposed to stand for you. You need to go and register and vote. A young lady, young man, all of us, let's go and register and then vote. You don't just go and register. You must go and stand on the line and vote, because it's important for us to do that. We will determine the direction and the destiny of our country if we go and register and vote. Thank you, Doc.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Our network here is a challenge, but the message has gone. The message has gone out to say, Dr. Phil and myself are encouraging you young people, go and register to vote. 18 September in a place close to you, and 19th, which is Saturday and Sunday. If you are working on Sunday, you register on Saturday. If you are working on Saturday, you register on Sunday. And pastors, please don't do church the whole day from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and you don't give people time to go and register to vote. You know, in your churches, in your home cell, in your families, if you have got young people that they have not voted and they are staying under your roof, tell them. I'm going to tell my daughter as well. Tell them to go and register to vote. Because if you don't vote, and there are 3 people that vote, and all of them vote for someone, that person will win. It's not a case that if I'm going to be apathetic, I'm going to stay. Others will vote. Even if 5 people vote, that person will win and they will rule the country on your behalf. Your closing words, Pastor Phil, as we go. He has been cut, and I think we are closing this broadcast right now. We were talking to Dr. Phil, wonderful man. He has already given you in the beginning of this broadcast his contacts. Please contact him. He's got wonderful books on leadership that he has written. And he's also leading the Institute of Christian Leadership as well as TNET International, where he's involved in discipleship making. Training of pastors, training of church leaders in various programs that is involved in. May God bless you as you contemplate to go and register to vote next week, and as a pastor to encourage those that are called into politics to participate into politics, and as a pastor and as a church leader, speaking truth to power where it matters and bring the voice of the church into the governance system of the country where you are located. We need to make politics clean. If it is dirty, we that are Christians have the responsibility and the right to go there and make it clean. I think Pastor Dr. Phil has given examples from the Bible of people that were participating in politics, from prophets to people that were not prophets at all, who really made a difference in the political arena of their time. He also gave examples of leaders in Africa and beyond that were pastors and Christians, and they did a lot of work. Of course, there are some that really started well and they didn't end well, and he gave reasons why they didn't end well, and also suggestions as to how we can be able to keep them and help them, those that go into politics, rather than pull them down. Also encouraged women and young people to take part in the political arena. God bless you as we close. In Jesus' name, amen.